Good evening, guys. How are you doing? Sorry for the delay there. Nature called. It's too much of this stuff, so I'm a little bit late starting today. But thank you very much for joining me. Those of you who are joining me live, please excuse the attire. I've been in clinical gear all day and had enough of it. So I've put on, I've had a little walk out before I've done this for you guys this evening, before I do go home a little bit later on. So yeah, just not too smart today, but nice and cash, because it's all about being friendly, amenable and approachable at this point. So thank you very much for those of you that are joining me live. For those of you that are watching on a replay, thank you very much for following this and you know, all the way through to the end. I mean, you might be watching this as your first one this evening, or you may have watched them in transition as you've gone through. So Shop Beautiful will have the others available on YouTube if they haven't already, so you can always recap on this as well. Okay, so one more thing, if you are watching this on social media, please do share, tag us in, Shop Beautiful UK and myself, Skin Smile Success. There is going to be a bit of a challenge for you guys to do this at the end as well, as you will see, just to kind of help you promote and see what you've been learning over the last 7 weeks. So today we have a general skin overview and my top 10 tips that I would recommend to be making sure that you are talking to and engaging the client with. So this again will help you with content planning, with social media, with how you're going to talk to your clients about potentially upselling treatments and options, and home care as well, of course, too. So that's how we're going to close this evening. So we're on week 7 of 7. It's been a long graft for myself. I didn't realise just how much of a challenge putting all this together would be, but I've enjoyed it all the matter, and that's all that matters as well. Okay, so let's have a little look then. So those of you who haven't been on and or bear with me, I don't really know what's going on, but it's not letting me press the next button. There we go. So we're here to level up. Today we are going subcutaneous, so we're going to be talking about the hypodermis just a little bit, because there's not too much to talk about. We're going to talk about adipose tissue and fatty tissue, which is all too relevant in the skin, albeit, you know, some would argue, well, maybe not within the skin at this point, but it's still very, very relevant and important that we cover it. And in particular, I just want to kind of raise a salute to all you skin geeks that are out there joining me this evening. I'm sure if I'd have been on yesterday evening, it might have been even less of you. But yes, this is why we are here. So I'm not here because I know everything. I'm here because I'm passionate about what I do, and I want to share the results and, you know, the opportunities that we have with certain products and things as well. So it won't be brand heavy. That's not what this is about. That's not what I'm about. Those of you that who know me should know this already. You know, granted, I do use products and I do use brands, so they may come into the conversation, but I'm not here to promote one brand this evening. It's more about education. So what you take from this is how you can utilize the products that you have in the best way possible for the best results. So the last 7 weeks has consisted of refreshing and revising on the anatomy of the skin, understanding implications of treatment within each layer, and discovering confidence in your treatment options and product choices from the Shop Beautiful range and beyond. So you may have things that you already offer, you just want to make sure that it's ticking all the boxes. So who am I? My name is Annette Matthews. I have a skin clinic in Works with Derbyshire called W Skin. Please do check it out. Very humbled to be here. And as these guys ask me to do these things, I always kind of like, what, really me? But yeah, you know, I'm here not because I know everything. I'm here just to share my experiences with you guys on certain treatments and procedures that are working and that aren't. So my background is dentistry. I'm a dental hygienist, dental therapist. I'm also studying at the moment a cosmetic medicine postgrad diploma and master's, which is a very big challenge, but I'm absolutely loving it. And I am an absolute self-professed skin geek. So even though I'm from dentistry, it was quite early in that I really knew that my passion was with skin, and it was a certain few dental clients that came to see me with certain skin conditions that I really wanted to help them with. So that's where the passion came from. It's not just about injectables and aesthetics for me. It's about treating one of the largest organ of the body, which is skin. So hopefully that's why some of you are here. So without further ado, we're going to move into the content for this evening. So we're going to start by talking about the hypodermis. So the hypodermis is also known as the sub-Q layer. So you may see products that are sub-Q, that are this, that are superficial fascia, whatever it is. We're talking about that bottom layer. So looks a bit like a bubbly mint arrow. You can tell Annette's hungry. I'm off chocolate at the moment as well. So it reminds me of a bubbly mint arrow, a bit of a Malteser going on underneath there. So this is that fatty adipose tissue that we're going to be talking about. Again, what we've covered already over the last 7 weeks is the different layers within the epidermis. Last week we talked about the dermis as well. The blogs have now gone live for the last, not last week's, but the last 2 weeks before. So do check those out as well. It's just a recap on what we learned that evening and just a refresher. And by all means, you can copy and paste those things, put them out to your clients as well, you know, as an education style tool for, you know, hopefully promoting treatments too. So we're talking about the adipose tissue at the bottom. Again, I said earlier, it's not strictly part of the skin, but it is that border between the hypodermis and the dermis, which sometimes can be difficult to distinguish. It is this layer, this hypodermis, that we do go through in certain injectable procedures as well, when we're placing product onto the periosteum, which is the bone. So lipid storage, so fat storage, fat and adipose tissue are present within the hypodermis. It consists of basically fat storing cells called adipocytes. Here she is. In particular, you've got dermal adipocytes that are present within the hypodermis. So we talked about these a little bit last week, so we're going to be just covering that once more. This stored fat can serve as an energy reserve, so we utilize it throughout the body, but when it comes to the skin, more often than not, it's for the insulation, and it's also to prevent any damage to those underlying structures from trauma. When we look at the skeleton and we look at what's going on underneath, especially within the hypodermis and these fatty structures, which we are going to do this evening in a little bit, you can see that they are usually over areas that need that little bit of extra protection. So we have something called foramen. They are holes in the skull where nerves and underlying blood vessels and really important things tend to come out of. And you'll usually find some form of fatty pad or structure over that area for protection, and rightly so. As we age, obviously, we're going to be talking about this, you know, and how the fat is deposited, how it's accumulated within the hypodermis depends on hormones, big contributing factor, such as testosterone and estrogen, insulin and glucagon, leptin, we're going to cover a little bit more detail. And there are other genetic factors that will contribute to less and or more fatty tissue within the skin as well. Important to note that fat distribution within the hypodermis changes as our bodies mature and as we age. That's a natural occurring process, but obviously there are things, like always, that we can do that make this worse and or better. So I like this image, interestingly enough, actually, and ironically, everything happens for a reason. My master's study last week or the week before, we covered adipose tissue and fatty tissue. So I was like, haha, fresh in the brain. So I thought I'd throw some of this in for us this evening. So that youthful look of the skin, if you look at the age changes as we go, a lot of my clients that come to me are around about age 45, 50, and they just say, oh my God, I literally feel like I've just woken up and it's gone. Woof. I always reassure them they are gorgeous, as we should do, but we kind of talk to them about the anatomical changes and what's happened. So as you can see, these areas we start to lose fat around. In particular, one I see more often than not, and you can see it pictured here, is this malar fatty pad. So this fatty pad that will distend. So if you imagine you've got these fatty pads here, if they're falling downward and losing that traction, then that's going to affect the lower face here as well. So that is why we see that pre-gel sulcus, and that is why predominantly that's their first complaint. It's either this area that concerns them or under eye area, and here lies the reason why. And this is all going on within the hypodermis. So it's you know, it's so you know, I absolutely love it. I'm a proper skin geek here. This is something that I see quite often as well. So, and you probably will too. So you'll see clients that are coming to see you who are active within the gym. They may be on kind of high profile diets, really low fat diets and things like that. And that will have a contributing factor on their skin and their fat pads as well. So we know about the essential fatty acids. There's a reason for that. I'm not a nutritionist, But what we know about these essential fatty acids is that they are helping to keep these things in check. We're naturally going to age, we're naturally going to lose fat in these areas, and some more quicker than others from different lifestyle choices. So at this point, I am saying yes, even though I am a runner and I love running, I do note that it is not the best thing for my skin. And obviously gravity will prevail and it will affect the skin and the fatty tissues in that area. So that's why I now opt for the spin bike a little bit more. It's lifestyle choices and changes that we can help our client educate them to on things that could potentially be making that worse as well. Okay. So we're not telling people to not go to the gym, but what we are doing is just directing them as to what, where and why that might have happened. So the thickness of the hypodermis will vary in different regions of the body, and it will vary considerably between different people. So men tend to carry it in their midriff, beer belly. Women tend to be hips and bum. And this is, again, just a rough guide. We're not tarring everybody with the same brush, but in relation to the face, we do pretty much have all the same fat compartments. But what you will find is obviously that hormones, in particular with women, we will obviously lose that fatty pad in a different manner in comparison to the males. So I'll open this up, and this always goes one of two ways. It depends on how many people are watching live and or afterwards. But what I want you to think about is what treatments are available to assist with subcutaneous fat loss and skin aging. And it's not just about injectables and invasive things. So what, you know, we're thinking about HA, we're thinking about hyaluronic acid, we're thinking about plumping products, we're thinking about products that are going to help prevent skin damage as well. So there are lots of things that we can do and offer, in particular, just from the Shop Beautiful catalogue, things that we can help prevent that subcutaneous fat loss and aging skin with. So have a little think about in your own time the sort of treatments that are available to assist with that fat loss. So there's also a lot of cellular activity going on. Just bear with me. The hypodermis contains the cells known as fibroblasts. If you don't know what they are, where have you been over the last few weeks? So fibroblasts, we are going to cover over my top 10 in the next few slides as well. So don't worry too much. The adipose, fatty tissues or fat cells, connective tissue, we see larger nerves and blood vessels and macrophages. So these are kind of immune response cells. So they'll go around and take away things that we don't want to have there. So this is all going on within the hypodermis as well. Okay. The function of adipose tissue, we've talked about this already, but just to kind of cover it in a little bit more detail, it's there for storing fat and energy. So we utilize it for energy within the body. It's there predominantly for protection. So it's to protect those areas that I talked about. In particular, when we come to the skull, you've got the foramen with all the blood tissue, blood vessels and nerves and things that come out there that are pretty important. And it's there for protection. It's also there to attach the upper skin layers, the dermis and the epidermis, to underlying skin tissues like your bones and your cartilage. Here lies the periosteum, which is obviously that bony area of the face, and supporting structures within this layer such as nerves and blood vessels. Body temperature regulation is also relevant from fatty tissue and adipose tissue. It functions as an insulator, so insulation, offering protection against the cold and protects the body against heat as well via that sweating process. So we talk about this. I've actually not put that slide up yet. It's towards the end this evening. I've flipped it around a little bit. So we talk about how the skin works when it's normal, when it's functioning properly. And as we know, thermal regulation is one of those factors. Hormone production, the hormone leptin is secreted by these fatty cells. Leptin is that signal that helps us feel full up. And sometimes I do feel like I am definitely lacking in leptin because I'm always hungry. But ultimately, we have our own endocrine organ going on right within this adipose tissue within the hypodermis. So it's quite an important one to know our stuff about, at least the background of it. So facial aging, what we've learned over the last few weeks is there are multiple reasons why the skin will age. This is a big one for me. So fat pad loss is something, if you are kind of, treating skin deep and at those superficial layers, and we have those fatty pad loss, and the areas of that happening, then sometimes we do need to consider slightly more invasive treatment plans, from my experience with that as well. The role of the hypodermis in facial aging is critical. It's those fatty pads that I've just talked about that will provide that structure and that support to our underlying tissues. Good fats are required to maintain these required fat stores. So people who are on extremely low fat fad diets, you will see quite quickly an effect on their face. That, you know, you just have to research it and Google it and look at the information behind fad diets and gym face that I talked about. You will see it quite often. So it's how we can help our clients with that to understand and make those changes slowly so that our skin has time to catch up with it as well. Another consideration is obviously weight gain, weight loss, weight gain, weight loss. We then have the aspect of elastosis to consider, which we're going to cover when we talk through the top 10 again shortly in the next few slides. Here we are. So let's recap on the last 7 weeks. This is the best bit really, because we get to kind of put it all together. Do take time. I mean, it's a good 7 hours when we think about it, of me waffling on, but the last 7 sessions have been talking about the multiple layers. And if you watch them all, maybe not in one go, then you will obviously start to think about it a little bit more when we're applying treatment options for our clients as well. The other thing with these top 10 skin science client reminders, and or, you know, that you're reminding yourself of from the previous education that you may have had, these are worthy of a social post or two. So educational content posts and or reels. I'm new to the world of Instagram reels right now, but they are the way forward, guys. Video clips, talking to your clients about skin science education, all of those things you can take from these last 7 weeks as well. And I'd love to see it. So please do tag me in. I saw a post the other day. It was somebody that utilized a product that Shop Beautiful sells, and they talked about it beautifully. And I think you could see the comments afterwards. So they got quite a lot of interest in it, because they weren't just out there trying to sell a treatment. They were basically offering that solution. So that's what I want to see more of. Collagen. So we're going to start with collagen. So this is something all our clients think they know enough about, but it's down to us to really help them understand where is this collagen formed? Why is it there? It's within the dermis, as we know. We learned about this last week, but what is it doing? What is it made up of? So we covered this last week. Predominantly within the dermis, we have type 1 collagen. Type 3 is found deeper. It's a triple helix structure, so you may not want to go into that much detail, but it's made of amino acids. A lot of people know these buzzwords, and amino acids is one of them. So the main amino acids are glycine, proline, and hydroxyproline, and these are the amino acids that make up a collagen fiber in effect. They have enormous tensile strength. They are super, super strong. So it's very, very important that we educate our client to look after our collagen stores. Collagen therapy, there are so many treatments and home care options that we can give our client that provide collagen therapy. So that is a really good place to start in terms of education for our clients. Elastin. So elastin is, if you know, I use this analogy quite often, and that's that hair scrunchie analogy, or an elastic band that's overused and underworked and underpaid. Overused, overworked and underpaid. So you will see elastosis in areas of movement. Predominantly, that's where it starts, okay? 1,000 times more flexible than collagen, and it works in coalition with the collagen. So the collagen is there for the plumping, the efficacy, the mesh network underneath the skin. And what this stuff does is it provides that turgor and that tightness to the skin as well. So it's very, very important. So why do we need collagen and elastin? We need it to provide that initial structure underneath the skin within the dermis. The fat pads, we need that as well. We need all of it within coalition to work together for the best results and for our skin to function in the best way that it can. This is how you're going to engage your clients, by promoting these treatments and the science behind how and what they work. Obviously before and after pictures are good, but you'll have clients that look for different things, and some will be looking for this side of it. So this is where you can utilize some of this information to do just that. So the fibroblast is there to produce and secrete these collagen and elastin fibers. So if you look at, I think it was last week's webinar, I showed a video of the fibroblast in action underneath the skin. Absolutely amazing. So something like that, your clients would love to see. What is a fibroblast? Sorry, there's a motorbike going past. It might just be a little bit of background noise for a moment. A fibroblast is there to create collagen and elastin. So it's something that we need to feed. You will see products that are available in the Shop Beautiful catalogue and elsewhere that are growth F factors, or they have growth F factors. So it's this growth fibroblast factor that we want to try and encourage. We want to wake up new fibroblasts that are going to create this collagen and elastin network, and all good quality at that. Collagen makes up over 70% of the weight of the dermis as well, and that's an important consideration. So what treatments, have a think about this, what treatments do you offer with collagen and elastin therapeutic effects? What treatments can you put out there and advertise for and with that will help with these fibroblast therapy, that will help improve collagen and elastin stores and create new collagen and elastin? And when you're thinking about that, that's how you can do the post. That's how you do that social post. That's how you do that advert to gain those clients coming through. So you've got a solution. Their concern might be collagen depletion, and you can help with that. But get them to think about how the product's going to work before they work out what the product is. That would be my advice. Barrier function. So the barrier function we've covered on pretty much every webinar, especially when we were in the epidermis, because it's so relevant. So that barrier function is the first line of defense for the skin. Very, very important that we have it working to do what it does. If it doesn't, then obviously all these other things will start to happen underneath. How often does somebody have a completely normal barrier function? Probably not that often. There will always be things and elements that are contributing to that barrier function not working as it should. And trying to reduce the risk of this and or eliminate where possible is where our role will come in. So barrier function is maintained and obtained by good home care, by correct treatment choices in the correct treatment order as well, and preventative factors to help prevent that barrier function, degrading over time. So our barrier function, as soon as we interfere with or alter that functional property, then it will weaken the barrier. So there are lots of treatments and options that we do and provide that will do that. So have we looked at the preventative aspect first, and have we got these things in place before we go on to do that? Intrinsic and extrinsic considerations, we always must start with home care. And how do you start with home care? How do you implement that? Well, that's where the barrier function comes in. So you talk to your clients about the deeper dermis, about the fact that we need to help our collagen and elastin stores, but right before that, we've got to start at the top and think about how we're going to prevent that damage from underneath as well. And that's with your barrier function. I dare say that the majority of skin conditions that come through my door are predominantly down to a poor barrier function. They will come and say, I can't use anything on my skin. Anything that I use on my skin will kick it off. That is because that barrier function is pretty impaired. So what's happened, the pH of the skin, which will sit at around about 4.5 to 5.5, is probably extremely alkaline. So when they do start to use a product on it that you may give them, it may potentially get worse before it gets better. And that's a really important conversation to have with them, because they'll use it, it gets worse, they back away from it. So barrier function is certainly one that you can be discussing with your clients on a regular basis. So in terms of barrier repair, it's constantly exposed to these changing environmental stresses, and some of these we can control. We have the term intrinsic and extrinsic factors, which we're going to cover in one of the next slides. As always, we start with home care and prevention. Instead of these invasive treatments, in my professional opinion, we fix the foundations, which will be that barrier repair, because anything we do underneath, what's the point if we haven't got that initial barrier retention occurring? What is the point? Okay, So where are we? Transient epidermal water loss. So epidermal water loss is something that happens when that barrier function is impaired. So we're reliant on the lipids within our skin and or the skin to be fully intact on that top layer to keep moisture in and to prevent microorganisms from getting in as well. And also to keep that moisture from preventing something like transepidermal water loss. So this will happen with certain procedures that we do, but it's what we do afterwards. It's how we get the skin to help repair after certain procedures that we have done that will potentially promote this. What products are we using? And these are questions to ask when you're doing training. How does this product work with that? And kind of talk through that with your trainers and make sure that you've got a good grasp on any products, any peels, any microneedling, mesotherapies, all of these things that you're utilizing with your clients potentially. A keratinocyte is again something that we can educate our client to. This is again found within the epidermis, as we've learned over the last 7 weeks. This is the primary cell of the epidermis, the outermost layer of the skin. They constitute around 90% of the epidermal skin cells, so a fair few. They will produce keratin and are responsible to help keep that epidermal water barrier intact. They secrete these lipids, so that's what helps keep the skin healthy as well, okay, alongside that sebum that we produce within our sebaceous gland. Keratinocytes will also regulate calcium absorption, and they will help to transfer UVB light to form vitamin D. So that's where its own endocrine organs really kicks in and it gets very exciting. And we covered this, I think it was week 2 or 3 in terms of the keratinocytes. So do revisit that if you want to. It was in the stratum spinosum that we start to see this water repelling glycolipid that will help prevent that transient water loss that we just talked about, which makes the skin relatively waterproof. But again, if this isn't functioning as it should, then it won't happen. So that's why I need to make sure that we start from the top down. We then have the policing cell, which is the Langerhans cell. So it's not called the policing cell. That's a nickname I've made up for it, because what it does is it goes around and it polices our skin. The reason it's important to point out to our clients, because it's another reason to really encourage good preventative techniques and home care techniques with the good quality SPF. The number of Langerhans cells will decrease following ultraviolet radiation. So if they are exposed to UV light, these Langerhans cells will decrease. Age will also decrease them too. So if we're adding age, which happens to all of us, plus the fact that we're not wearing relevant sun protection, then you can imagine these immunologic defense police cells are depleted, and then we don't have that protection underneath the skin as well. Okay, so really, really important. We touched on this last week, I believe. This was when we did the basal layer, the week before, this is all rolled into one. We talked about the melanocyte. So the melanocyte is so important to educate our client too. If they're coming for professional treatments and they are not considering medical grade professional SPF, then what is the point in them having these treatments? It's so important that we get them into good habits and compliance before we then start messing around, potentially exciting these melanocytes, as we learned a couple of weeks ago. So again, it's something else you can talk to your client about, especially in good weather that we have at the moment as well. Hormonal induced melasma and pigmentation and age spots and all of the above are certainly things that we can help our client with and understand from the last 7 weeks as well. Lifestyle choices. We're not there to preach and fall out with people, but we are there to help advise them to make the right choices. There are intrinsic and extrinsic causes of aging. On the next slide, as we will see, the one after that, around 90% of skin aging is preventable. So if we think to the intrinsic and extrinsic causes of aging, which ones can we help? Which ones can we rule out? Which ones can we help reduce to decrease that skin aging process? And again, lifestyle is something we can post about this till we're blue in the face. We can help clients see there are choices that they can make that are going to improve their skin condition as well. Prevention is one of them. So getting them to see the damage that has been done at an early age is really, really important. You know, a lot of the damage that has been done at an early age is what we find later on in life can cause serious skin concerns and or life-threatening skin concerns as well. So prevention is 110% key, and definitely something we can be talking to our client about in terms of skin science. And that's where your sunscreen, your sun repair and your SPF comes in. We do have the webinar. It's one of my last slides this evening, the date of it. I've got a couple of weeks off, and we're going to be talking about skin cancer and melanoma detection, which is all too relevant in these industries as well that we are in. Minimum of factor 30 in most skin types, but I would kind of up that to at least a 50 for the vast majority of patients and clients, especially if we are providing professional treatments to them. That's the shocking thing. Up to 90% of the reason that our skin ages and or denatures and or we have problems with the collagen proliferation and the elastin production is preventable. So if we get this from an early age and we encourage good home care habits and we educate our clients to the science behind the skin and what is going on, the largest organ of the body that we probably misuse quite often. You know, clients will come to me, they're really good with the face and neck, but the rest of the body, how can we help them with that? Are we making consideration for body treatments as well? Have we got the facilities to do that? If not, then how can we help our client with that area as well? It's a really important one to consider. So I normally start my webinar with this slide. Those of you that have been on my webinars before are probably missing it, but I thought it was good to kind of have it towards the end today. When we talk about the function of normal skin and the skin's integrity that we talked about, that mechanical barrier that it holds, that chemical barrier that it withholds as well, and that prevention of that fluid loss from the overlapping cells and those lipids that we learned that the keratinocytes will produce, that's going to minimize the loss of water and keep that hydration within the skin. What we know is good hydrated skin will help create good collagen and elastin fibers, and it's also great at removing toxins underneath the skin. If we start to deplete some of that out, we will start to see problems in the skin. That defense against microorganisms is going to be breached if we don't have the action from that lipid layer, and that immunological barrier is going to be affected at the same time. We've learned so much over the last 7 weeks, in particular the very fact that the skin works as its own endocrine organ. It can actually produce vitamin D under UV light. But obviously there is that happy balance and that happy medium. We want to produce just enough to provide our body with what it needs, but there is that line where it will cross and we start to overproduce that melanin, and we start to have those very negative effects on the dermis from too much UV. So too much of something is never a good thing either. Thermoregulation, we've learned a little bit more about that this evening when we talked about adipose tissue and the hypodermis and how our body temperature is regulated. And we kind of covered that a little bit, I think it was last week when we talked about the blood vessels and how they dilate and constrict when we are hot and cold and things like that as well. So that was another one that we covered, and the very fact that it's a sensory organ. I think we talked about this in the early days when we were talking about the different types of skin, from the palms to the soles of the feet, and how that differs to where else we have skin within our body as well. So there's been a lot that we've covered. What factors can we control when it comes to skin damage and upholding the integrity of the skin? These are things to kind of think about having a conversation with your patient about with your client without preaching as well. And that will be the types of intrinsic and extrinsic considerations. Some things they can't change if it's a medical condition, if it's something that's genetic. But some things they can change, such as smoking, chemicals, people working with chemicals that don't realize the effect it's having on their skin as well. So all these things that we can, when we are doing that consultation phase, it's very important that we consider this from a very early onset. Prevention is key, as she says, all the time. We prevent to protect, and we educate our clients to help eliminate these problems that are occurring. In my head, it's kind of like that light bulb moment, and I sit and think, well, if I get all my clients doing this, then from an earlier age, then when they come and see me, we're not going to need the more invasive treatments, because the science behind it means, yeah, we're going to age, but we can help prevent and slow down that aging process with what we know about the skin now. We know a lot more than what we did, and we're still growing on that knowledge as well. So we can help educate to eliminate the, you know, these problems that happen to the skin. So what can you be doing now? This is where your educational content posts come in. This is what I want to see from you guys, and I'd really love you to tag us in, and tag myself in as well. So the reason we're putting these webinars out there is, yes, we sell products and that's great, but what product is right for each client? What, you know, how do we pick up what we do and why we do it? It's not just, to me in particular, and I know it isn't you guys, that's why you're here. It's not just about picking products. It's about making changes to patients' lives and clients' lives, and how we can, I'm sorry if I keep saying patients, by the way, that's my background, so I do apologize if it's annoying anybody. It annoys me. So tag us into your creations that you post. Canva's a really good tool to help make these things up. And, you know, just kind of flip it up a little bit, how you're advertising your treatments and your options to your clients. Make it creative and educational, and just see if it makes a difference to any bookings that you you know, potentially did get. Do you notice a slight increase? Because I know within my clinic, when I flipped it this way, it made a massive difference. So yeah, I have my wow before and afters, but I always kind of cover a little bit of educational content within the posts about how, what, and why. That's what clients want to see and read the majority of the time. We offer a skin solution. They have a problem. They don't realize it's a problem. Well, they probably do, but more often than not, they don't see it as a problem. They're just looking for something to resolute. So that, you know, an example of this would be collagen therapy. Who out there knows what collagen therapy and exactly how, what, and why that's going to work? Instead of collagen therapy, you know, write what that collagen therapy is going to address. You know, scar, help with acne scarring, help with fine lines and wrinkles. You probably do this already. If you do, then I'm teaching you to suck eggs here, but we are providing a solution, and that's so important. You know, the skin science solution. So you've got options that you can offer them from the treatments and the procedures and the products that you have in front of you as well. And that's a really, really important point to get across to your clients, that you can help them with a solution. This hasn't been brand heavy, and the blog I promise won't be either. You can view the last ones, but I do have a blog to follow that's kind of round all of this up. I just have to produce it yet. It's been a very busy few weeks for me, but that will be on the Shop Beautiful website soon for you guys to have a look. And by all means, you can take snippets from this, get it posted out there, get it shared. And again, you sharing this content both with your clients and other like-minded you know, salons and spas and clinics will help other clients, you know, potentially looking for treatments as well. So please do share. That's all important. Next webinar coming up, what date is it? Wow, I do like have a couple of weeks off. Can't believe it. Wednesday, July the 14th at 7 o'clock. I'm talking on behalf of Skin, which is a charity I am an ambassador for. So do check them out, skin.org. It's a bit of a poor quality image there that I've blown up. You could all become Mascad accredited. I might be saying this out of turn, but I think there will be a discount for their online training as well. So do log in and check it out and get it shared that you are doing this webinar, because this is a really important one. I probably see 3 to 4, well, I dare say 3 to 5 on a busy week, 3 to 5 clients a week with things that I don't quite like the look of on their skin. I'm not diagnosing them. I refer them on and or send them and direct them to someone to get help. And around about 80% of the time, it's something that could have potentially turned out a lot more sinister. So we are in a perfect position to help clients with this from an early stage. You know, they may be seeing us more often than they will the GP potentially, and all those other healthcare professionals. So this is definitely one not to be missed. So please do check it out. I'm going to close for this evening. I'd like to close by saying thank you. Thanks to all of you that have joined me live over the last 7 weeks, and to all of you that are watching on replay. If you're watching on replay, please do tag me in how you're watching it, what you're doing, if you're on the beach, if you're on holiday, whatever. I know when I'm obviously watching these things, I always, you know, I'm sometimes out and about walking the dogs, whatever it is that I'm doing. So please do share what you thought of it. And we're also always looking for extra content. So anything else you want us to cover, I've got lots of ideas in the pipeline that we're working on at the moment. We've got a few biorepeal webinars coming up and case studies, so do check that out as well. And thank you very much for your time this evening. I look forward to seeing more of you very soon. I'm just going to check, make sure I've not got any Q&A. No, I think we're good. You're a quiet bunch this evening. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me. Let's have a look. Rosanna, thank you for your message. I've always told clients they should be doing what their products are now, but why? So now I'm starting a live series in my face. Oh, this is amazing. So Rosanna, just put, thank you so much for these, Annette. I've always told clients that they should be doing with their products and why, but never why. Here she is, look. So I'm starting a new live series in my Facebook group on the science of skin. Thank you for reminding me of it all and teaching me new things too. That's amazing. That's exactly what I wanted out of this. You know, re-engage your clients, empower them, get them back on board with why, you know, and why you love doing what you do and get the results that you do. So that's amazing, Rosanna. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. And all the best with it. Okay, perfect. So thank you so much for joining me again. Take care, guys, and have an amazing rest of the week. And I'll see you all in a couple of weeks, right, for the Masked training. Take care. Bye-bye.